YouTube is trying to take away your privacy. They're trying to take away things that they don't think someone your age should be watching, and that very well may mean removing you from online spaces that are the only safe spaces you have. There are better, more high-quality videos about this. I actually urge you to watch them instead because there are many people who summarize this much better than I do. Personally, I recommend One Topic's video on the subject. I will link it in the description. We all need to be spreading the word about this, and I'm just doing my part. I want you all to know that I take no pleasure in talking about this. I genuinely hate to make these kinds of videos where I can't actually make them good or enjoyable to watch. Where I can't add the bells and whistles for the editing, where, I'm just sitting in my room, a complete disaster with no script and not being able to retake anything and just talking, showing footage from the Percy Jackson show that is totally irrelevant in the background. I hate that with a burning passion. I'm talking about this because I feel like I need to. If this video seems a little more low quality, that's probably why, but this is urgent. This is serious. This is a big deal. We need all our eyes on this. We need everybody to be publicly shaming YouTube into fixing this right now. Because if we wait, it's going to be too late. I would much prefer to be able to make a high quality, perfectly effortful video on this, but I just don't have the time. So please, whatever social media you have, use it to speak out about this. So what's happening? Well, basically, YouTube is rolling out age restrictions to try and keep teenagers from accessing certain content, and they're doing it with AI to decide how old you are and what content you should be allowed to access. And if they decide that you are under 18, based on the videos you watch, you will have to send them your face, government ID, or credit card to continue accessing your YouTube account. They will lock you out until you provide easily doxable government surveillance information. I don't really know what's gonna happen if they ask me to submit my ID. They might decide that my face looks too young for me to be an adult, even though I am one. I have legally been an adult for a few years now, but within the past year, in real life, I have had 3 separate instances of being mistaken for a minor. Most people assume that I look 13 to 15 years old. I'm not totally clear on whether or not this is happening in Canada. I know it's happening in the US, and YouTube is a US company, so I don't know if it's gonna hit us here. It's probably only a matter of time until it does. But either way, this situation is fucked. They are going to determine if you are under 13, between 13 and 18 years old, or over 18, based on their AI, which is not very good. Because things like cartoons, Disney movies, Pixar movies, take The Owl House for example. I know many of you watch The Owl House, you talk about it all the time. Sophia the First is somewhat of a meme. Gravity Falls and Steven Universe, I've heard endless things about how they are pretty good and still hold up even if you were an adult. My Little Pony was a massive interest of mine when I was a small child, and I still revisit it time and again. And because it's nostalgic for me, I genuinely enjoy listening to some of the songs, but I guess I can't do that anymore. Or take one of my biggest obsessions, Has Been Hotel, which is an 18-plus raunchy adult comedy musical. Because watch what's gonna happen. Despite the bloody violence, despite the rampant demon horniness, despite the constant swearing, despite the clearly adult handling of the themes, just watch this show and the people who watch it get marked as children because of the candy-colored characters and fun musical numbers. I've already seen fan songs for this show show up on YouTube mixes for children's music. AI does not make the internet safer for anybody. If you've been following my community tab, you may know that a little while ago I got a video from YouTube, basically asking me to allow YouTube to share my channel's information with third parties so that I could get more earning opportunities through sponsorships and things like that. Now, to be clear, I highly doubt it was sent just to me. I do think it was sent to every content creator with monetized content. But it basically asked me to share things like my channel's statistics and things like that, but also information about my audience, including their age and gender. I did not take this action and instead posted part of the email on my community tab to let people know what YouTube was doing. Again, I'm pretty sure this was done for all content creators. They didn't do this because I have a primarily minor audience, but whether you're an adult or a minor, this is just another step YouTube is taking to share your information with third parties. And we've seen in the past that this kind of thing is not about protecting children, and it never has been. I was on YouTube under a different name in late 2020 when everything with COPPA was being discussed. If you were not on the internet during that time, to briefly summarize it, YouTube had been collecting information about all its users, including users who were on the adult YouTube platform, but who were under 13, which is a violation of child privacy protection laws. So they got sued a stupidly small amount of money and then handballed the entire responsibility of this mess onto their creators. Basically saying, if you make content for kids, there will be basically no revenue, there will be no popularization of your videos, there will be no comments, and basically your channel will die out. The problem with this was that they weren't just targeting videos that the creators themselves had said were made for kids. They were expanding. They were using AI to make their own decisions about whether or not a video was targeted towards children. And this has backfired horribly, while not doing a lot to keep children off the platform. While it's not the majority of you, I know many of you are 12 or under. Nobody was going to send their kids on YouTube Kids. What creators have been saying since the COPPA days is that it was the responsibility of parents to monitor their children's internet use and whether or not they were consuming inappropriate or dangerous content, not the responsibility of the creators. And it is certainly not the responsibility of AI that is completely garbage at determining who a target audience is. YouTube makes a greater profit when they don't have to hire people to actually do things. So instead, they let AI do the hard work, and they don't care if AI gets it wrong because ultimately it's the content creators who will pay the price for that, not YouTube, who doesn't have to invest the money into actually having human beings track these claims because it's easier for those human beings to side with the AI, and YouTube doesn't want to hire more human beings because they will lose money. That's what it's about. They claim they are doing this to keep kids safe, to keep minors away from inappropriate content, and I think we're all ready to call bullshit on that. YouTube will always only care about making a profit, which is why we need to make as much noise as possible about this. See, before, they were targeting individual videos, which was frustrating because they were still using AI to overrule what the creators were saying. There was like a little button saying, "Hey, are you a kid? You should check out YouTube Kids." And you can imagine how many kids blatantly ignored this. But now they are moving on to tracking information about entire users. They didn't succeed at keeping kids off the platform. They're not going to succeed at keeping teens off either. If they determine that you are a teen, based on, again, the types of videos you watch, not your submitted age, they are going to limit the types of videos that you are able to watch and conveniently limit your exposure to quote-unquote problematic content. Because that is oh so specific. I feel like this is a good time to mention that queer creators have been calling out YouTube for years for automatically demonetizing any content related to LGBTQIA+ stuff. AI doesn't have a political interest in being homophobic, but AI needs to learn from something, and what it learns from is people, their biases, implicit or explicit. Our society treats queer content as inherently more mature, and AI will catch on to this because AI is not an automatic truth generator. This will limit your exposure to queer content, content about marginalized communities, anything deemed controversial. Even limit your exposure to certain news platforms that don't conform to government narratives, and we've seen this happening already. And this is only going to continue to happen as they demand your private information, and if you are a teen, limit your exposure to anything deemed inappropriate. And don't think your information is secure. YouTube doesn't care about your privacy. They don't care about your information. They just want to monetize you. They want to keep children away from content they deem problematic, and it's not because they want to protect you, it's because they want you to be normal. They want to control how you think. And I can already hear the comments. I can already hear the "it's not that deep, it's not that deep, it's not that deep" flooding my comment section. But riddle me this. If entertainment is not that deep, then why? Why? Why does Project 2025 include a list of books to ban from school libraries and curriculums, including Percy Jackson, explicitly because those books are queer, or because they talk about history, or because they talk about women's issues, or anything else that is deemed inappropriate? Why do no stores carry their books? Why did Disney feel the need to change the ending of the 2025 Lilo and Stitch so that a native Hawaiian woman gives up her young sister to the foster care system and makes it seem like a happy ending when at any time Lilo could be removed from her happy little foster family and taken to a different one that will separate her from her culture? Why did they do this when the explicit message of the original film was that the family separation would be horrible for Lilo and Nani, and that the entire idea of them being separated was treated as a parallel for Hawaiian colonization? Why does Disney repeatedly stamp down any attempt to represent openly queer characters in their films? In a nutshell, the reason for all of that is profit. But in many ways, profit comes from keeping things the same, from trying to appear progressive while not actually being it, from enforcing the status quo or worsening it rather than changing it, from appealing to people in power. Why do people invest so much of themselves in fandom spaces that contain the only comfort they can find, their only interactions with people like them, people who accept and love them as they are, people who make them feel seen? It's always been that deep. Entertainment has always been a crucial part of how we see the world, and YouTube is trying to take that away from you and replaced it with even more personalized ads as a way of ripping money from you so that it can appeal to companies, so that it can continue to make its own profit. YouTube is not going to listen unless immense amounts of people put immense amounts of pressure on them. So no matter how much of a big or small platform you think you have, speak out about this. Spread the word. Make sure the people who follow you know about it. They won't listen to us because they want to. They'll listen to us because we aren't giving them a choice. I'll see you all next time.